The autumn rain pelted against the windows of Kensington Palace as Prince William sat in his mother's former study, surrounded by boxes that had remained untouched for over 2 decades. At 39, he had finally found the courage to go through Princess Diana's personal belongings, items that had been carefully stored away since her tragic death in 1997. The decision hadn't been easy, but, with his own children growing older, he felt compelled to preserve their grandmother's memory in a way that felt authentic and meaningful. Catherine had offered to help, but William knew this was something he needed to do alone. The weight of responsibility sat heavily on his shoulders as he carefully opened the first box, revealing photographs, letters, and personal mementos that transported him instantly back to his childhood. Each item seemed to carry the essence of his mother's warmth, her infectious laughter, and the unconditional love she had showered upon him and Harry during their formative years. As he sifted through the contents, William discovered letters Diana had written but never sent, diary entries that revealed her innermost thoughts about motherhood and her role within the royal family. Her handwriting, so familiar yet now seeming almost foreign after all these years, brought tears to his eyes. She had written extensively about her hopes for her sons' futures, her fears about the pressures they would face, and her determination to raise them with compassion and understanding for the world beyond palace walls. One particular journal entry caught his attention. Dated just 3 months before her death, Diana had written about a conversation she'd had with William during one of their private moments together. She described how mature he had become for his age, how he already showed signs of the king he would one day become. Her words painted a picture of a mother who saw not just her son, but a future leader who would need guidance, love, and wisdom to navigate the complexities of his destiny. The discovery of these intimate thoughts struck William profoundly. He remembered that conversation, though he had been just 15 at the time. They had been walking through the gardens at Highgrove, and Diana had spoken to him about the importance of staying true to himself despite the expectations placed upon him. She had made him promise that he would always remember the people who needed help, those who didn't have the privileges he enjoyed. It was a conversation that had shaped his entire approach to royal duty. As the afternoon wore on, William came across a small, ornate jewelry box that he didn't immediately recognize. Inside, wrapped in a piece of silk that still carried a faint trace of his mother's perfume, was a sealed envelope with his name written in Diana's distinctive handwriting. The sight of it made his heart race. How had this been overlooked for so many years? Who had placed it in this particular box, and why had it remained hidden for so long? With trembling hands, William carefully opened the envelope, revealing several pages of closely written text. As he began to read, he realized this was unlike anything else he had found. This wasn't a diary entry or a draft letter. This was a direct message to him, written with the knowledge that he might not read it for many years to come. Diana had poured her heart onto these pages, sharing insights, advice, and revelations that she had clearly intended for him to discover when he was older and more able to understand their significance. The letter began with Diana expressing her deep love for him and her pride in the young man he was becoming. She wrote about the challenges he would face as the future heir to the throne, but, more importantly, she shared her vision of the kind of king she believed he could become. Her words were filled with hope and wisdom, drawn from her own experiences of navigating the complexities of royal life while trying to maintain her humanity and compassion. As William continued reading, Diana's message took on a more urgent tone. She revealed concerns about certain aspects of royal protocol and tradition that she felt needed to change. She wrote about the importance of modernizing the monarchy, of making it more accessible and relevant to ordinary people. Her insights were remarkably prescient, anticipating many of the challenges that the royal family would indeed face in the decades following her death. But it was the personal nature of her message that affected William most deeply. Diana shared memories of their time together that he had almost forgotten, moments that had clearly been precious to her. She wrote about bedtime stories she had told him, private jokes they had shared, and conversations about his dreams and aspirations. Through her words, he could almost hear her voice again, feel her presence in the room with him. The letter also contained revelations about Diana's own struggles during her final years. She wrote honestly about the difficulties of her marriage, the pressure from media attention, and her efforts to carve out a meaningful role for herself within the constraints of royal life. But, rather than dwelling on the negative aspects, she used these experiences to offer guidance to William about how he might navigate similar challenges in his own life. One passage particularly resonated with him. Diana had written about the importance of choosing the right life partner, someone who would understand the unique pressures of royal life while helping him stay grounded in his own values and beliefs. She expressed her hope that he would find someone who would love him for who he truly was, not just for his title or position. Reading these words, William couldn't help but think of Catherine and how perfectly she had fulfilled his mother's hopes and expectations. As the evening shadows lengthened, William found himself completely absorbed in his mother's words. She had written about her charitable work and her passion for helping those in need, but she had also shared her vision for how he might use his position to make a real difference in the world. Her ideas were innovative and forward-thinking, suggesting approaches to royal duty that were both traditional and revolutionary at the same time. The letter revealed Diana's deep understanding of the monarchy's role in modern society and her belief that it could evolve to become more relevant and meaningful to people's daily lives. She wrote about the importance of authentic engagement with the public, of showing genuine emotion and vulnerability when appropriate, and of using royal platforms to address real social issues rather than simply maintaining ceremonial functions. Towards the end of the letter, Diana's tone became more emotional and personal. She wrote about her fears for the future, her concerns about not being there to guide her sons through the challenges they would face. But she also expressed her complete faith in William's character and judgment, her belief that he would make decisions that honored both his royal heritage and his human compassion. The final paragraphs of the letter contained what Diana described as her most important message to William. She urged him to trust his instincts, to surround himself with people who would tell him the truth even when it was difficult to hear, and to never lose sight of the fundamental purpose of royal service, to serve others rather than to be served. Her words were both inspiring and challenging, offering a roadmap for leadership that was grounded in humility, empathy, and genuine care for others. As William finished reading the letter for the first time, he was overwhelmed by a mixture of emotions. The discovery felt like receiving one final gift from his mother, a treasure that had been waiting patiently for the right moment to be revealed. But, along with the joy of this unexpected connection came the weight of responsibility that her words carried. Diana hadn't just shared her thoughts and feelings, she had entrusted him with a vision and a mission that would influence the rest of his life. The room had grown dark as he read, but William remained seated at his mother's desk, holding the letter in his hands and feeling her presence more strongly than he had in years. The discovery would change everything, not just his understanding of his mother's final thoughts, but his approach to his royal duties and his vision for the future of the monarchy. The message Diana had left for him was more than just a letter, it was a blueprint for the kind of leader she believed he could become, and the beginning of a journey that would transform both his personal understanding of his role and his public approach to royal service. The days following William's discovery of the letter passed in a blur of conflicted emotions and careful consideration. He had read Diana's message countless times, each reading revealing new layers of meaning and insight that he hadn't noticed before. The weight of her words pressed upon him constantly, creating an internal dialogue between the man he had become and the vision his mother had held for his future. Catherine noticed the change in him immediately. Over their years of marriage, she had learned to read the subtle shifts in his demeanor, the way his shoulders carried tension when he was processing something significant. That evening, as they sat together in their private sitting room after the children had gone to bed, she finally broached the subject that had been weighing on both their minds. William found himself sharing the discovery with Catherine in careful, measured words. He described the letter's contents without revealing every detail, knowing that some aspects of his mother's message were intensely personal and needed time to fully process before they could be discussed openly. Catherine listened with the patience and understanding that had drawn him to her in the first place, offering comfort without judgment and wisdom without presumption. As they talked, William began to understand that the letter represented more than just a message from his deceased mother. It was a challenge, a call to action that would require him to examine every aspect of his approach to royal duty. Diana's words had painted a picture of possibilities he had never fully considered, ways of modernizing the monarchy that went far beyond the gradual changes he had witnessed during his father's reign. The next morning brought an unexpected visitor to Kensington Palace. Sir David Manning, a former private secretary to the Queen and now a trusted advisor to the younger generation of royals, had requested an urgent meeting with William. As they sat in William's study, the same room where the letter had been discovered, Sir David's expression was grave and concerned. He had received word through various channels that William had been asking questions about his mother's final months, specifically regarding any messages or communications she might have left behind. Sir David's visit wasn't accusatory, but rather protective. He explained the delicate nature of such discoveries and the potential implications they might have for the royal family's public image and internal relationships. William found himself in the difficult position of wanting to honor his mother's memory while also respecting the institutional concerns that Sir David represented. The conversation that followed was complex and emotionally charged, touching on issues of privacy, duty, and the sometimes competing interests of personal truth and public responsibility. Sir David revealed information that William had never known about the final weeks of Diana's life. There had been concerns among palace staff about her emotional state and the various pressures she was facing from multiple directions. Some of her close friends and advisors had been worried about her increasingly isolated position and the toll that public scrutiny was taking on her mental health. This context gave new meaning to Diana's letter, suggesting that her message to William had been written during a period of intense reflection and, perhaps with a sense of urgency that she had not explicitly stated in her words. Sir David's revelations helped William understand that his mother's final message had been crafted not just as motherly advice, but as a carefully considered document that she had intended to influence his future decisions and approach to royal life. The conversation with Sir David also brought up questions about other members of the royal family and their knowledge of Diana's final communications. William learned that there had been other letters and messages, some of which had been shared with appropriate family members and advisors, while others had remained sealed and unread for decades. The complex web of family relationships and institutional protocols had created a situation where Diana's final thoughts and wishes had been scattered and sometimes lost in the machinery of royal administration. Over the following weeks, William began to implement some of the ideas and approaches that Diana had outlined in her letter. He started by making subtle changes to his public engagements, incorporating more direct interaction with ordinary people and focusing on issues that reflected his mother's passion for social justice and humanitarian causes. These changes didn't go unnoticed by the media or by palace observers, who began to comment on what they perceived as a new energy and purpose in his royal duties. One of the most significant aspects of Diana's letter had been her emphasis on the importance of mental health awareness and support. She had written extensively about her own struggles with depression and anxiety, sharing insights that had never been made public during her lifetime. Her message to William included detailed thoughts about how the royal family could use their platform to reduce the stigma surrounding mental health issues and provide support for those who needed help. This guidance proved to be remarkably prescient, as mental health would indeed become one of William's primary focuses in his charitable work and public advocacy. Diana's letter provided him with a framework for approaching these issues that was both personal and professional, drawing on her own experiences while also recognizing the unique position that royal endorsement could provide to mental health organizations and initiatives. The letter also contained specific advice about parenting and raising children within the royal family. Diana had written about the challenges of balancing public duty with private family life, offering strategies for protecting children from excessive media attention while also preparing them for their eventual roles within the monarchy. Her insights were particularly valuable to William as he navigated the early years of his own children's lives, trying to provide them with as normal a childhood as possible while also beginning to prepare them for their future responsibilities. As William continued to process his mother's message, he began to see connections between her advice and the challenges facing the modern monarchy. Diana had anticipated many of the issues that would arise in the 21st century, from changing public attitudes toward traditional institutions to the impact of social media on royal privacy and public perception. Her letter provided a roadmap for adaptation and evolution that honored royal traditions while embracing necessary changes. The emotional impact of the letter continued to affect William in unexpected ways. He found himself remembering conversations with his mother that he had forgotten, moments of connection and understanding that took on new significance in light of her written message. The letter had not only provided guidance for his future but had also helped him process and understand his past in new ways. One particularly powerful aspect of Diana's message was her discussion of forgiveness and healing. She had written about the importance of letting go of resentment and anger, both for personal peace and for the effective fulfillment of royal duty. Her words about forgiveness were clearly directed not just at external relationships but also at the complex dynamics within the royal family itself, offering William a framework for navigating difficult family relationships while maintaining his own integrity and values. The letter also revealed Diana's deep spiritual beliefs and her thoughts about the purpose and meaning of life within the constraints of royal duty. She had written about finding joy and fulfillment even within the demanding expectations of royal life, sharing strategies for maintaining personal happiness while serving others. These insights proved invaluable to William as he worked to create a sustainable approach to his royal responsibilities that honored his mother's legacy while also allowing him to build his own meaningful life. As the weeks turned into months, William began to share selected portions of his mother's message with trusted friends and advisors. These conversations helped him refine his understanding of Diana's vision and develop practical strategies for implementing her ideas within the current royal framework. The process of discussing his mother's letter with others also helped him work through the complex emotions that the discovery had triggered, allowing him to move from initial shock and grief toward a sense of purpose and direction. The impact of Diana's letter extended beyond William's personal development to influence his relationships with other members of the royal family. Armed with new insights into his mother's thoughts and feelings during her final months, William found himself better able to understand and navigate the complex dynamics that had shaped his childhood and continued to influence his adult relationships. The letter provided him with a foundation for honest conversations about the past while also offering hope for more authentic and supportive family relationships in the future. The revelation of Diana's letter had created ripple effects throughout the royal household that William hadn't anticipated. Word of his discovery had somehow reached other family members, though he had been careful about whom he told and what details he shared. The delicate nature of family dynamics within the monarchy meant that even the existence of such a personal message carried implications that extended far beyond William's private grief and reflection. Prince Harry was the first family member to approach William directly about the letter. Their relationship had been strained in recent years due to various pressures and disagreements, but Harry's knowledge of their mother's final message created an opportunity for a conversation that both brothers had been avoiding. When Harry arrived at Kensington Palace unannounced one evening, William knew immediately why he had come. The brothers sat in the same study where William had discovered the letter, surrounded by the same boxes and memories that had sparked this entire journey. Harry's emotions were complex and visible as he listened to William describe their mother's words, particularly those passages that spoke about both sons and her hopes for their futures. The letter had contained specific references to Harry as well, acknowledging his unique personality and the different path he would likely take within or outside the royal family. Diana had written extensively about the bond between her sons and the importance of maintaining their connection despite the pressures and expectations that might try to drive them apart. Her words about Harry were filled with understanding and love, recognizing his more rebellious nature while also expressing confidence in his fundamental goodness and capacity for service. She had anticipated that Harry might struggle more than William with the constraints of royal life and had offered both sons guidance on how to support each other through difficult times. The conversation between the brothers was emotionally charged but ultimately healing. Harry's reaction to learning about their mother's letter was intense, mixing joy at this unexpected connection with her memory and frustration that he was learning about it secondhand rather than discovering it himself. William's decision about how much of the letter to share with Harry became a delicate balance between honoring their mother's wishes and respecting his brother's emotional needs. As they talked through the night, both brothers began to see how their mother's final message could serve as a bridge between their increasingly divergent paths. Diana's letter had anticipated many of the challenges they would face as adult members of the royal family, and her advice seemed remarkably relevant to their current circumstances. Her emphasis on maintaining their bond while respecting each other's choices provided a framework for rebuilding their relationship on more solid ground. The next significant impact of the letter's discovery came through King Charles, who requested a private meeting with William several weeks after Harry's visit. Charles had been informed about the letter's existence through palace networks, and his reaction was complicated by his own complex relationship with Diana's memory and her lasting influence on their sons. The meeting took place in the king's private study at Clarence House, away from the formal protocols of official royal business. Charles's response to learning about Diana's letter was multifaceted, reflecting both his genuine concern for William's well-being and his institutional concerns about how such revelations might affect the monarchy's stability and public perception. As William shared selected portions of his mother's message, Charles found himself confronting memories and emotions he had spent years trying to process and move beyond. The letter contained passages that directly addressed Diana's relationship with Charles and her thoughts about co-parenting their sons despite their marital difficulties. Her words about Charles were more generous and understanding than William had expected, acknowledging both his strengths as a father and the pressures that had contributed to their marital problems. This unexpected perspective helped William understand his parents' relationship in a new light and provided a foundation for more honest conversations with his father. Diana's letter also included specific advice about how William should navigate his relationship with his father as he matured into his own royal role. She had written about the importance of respecting Charles's position and experience while also maintaining his own independence and integrity. Her insights about the transition from heir to heir were particularly valuable, as she had observed this dynamic from a unique perspective during her years within the royal family. The conversation between William and Charles revealed the depth of Charles's own grief over Diana's death and his ongoing struggle to honor her memory while moving forward with his own life and responsibilities. Charles admitted that he had often wondered what Diana's final thoughts and feelings had been, and learning about her letter provided him with closure he hadn't realized he needed. The experience brought father and son closer together in ways that years of formal interactions and shared duties had not achieved. One of the most surprising aspects of the letter's impact was its effect on Queen Elizabeth, who requested her own private meeting with William after learning about the discovery. The Queen's response to Diana's message was complex, shaped by decades of royal experience and her deep commitment to the institution's stability and continuity. At 97, the Queen had lived through enormous changes in both the monarchy and the world, and she brought this perspective to her understanding of Diana's final words. The Queen revealed that she had suspected Diana might have left personal messages for her sons, but palace protocols and the chaos surrounding Diana's death had made it difficult to ensure that all of her personal effects were thoroughly examined. She expressed regret that the letter had remained hidden for so many years and acknowledged that its discovery represented both an opportunity and a challenge for the royal family moving forward. William found himself in the unique position of serving as a bridge between his grandmother's institutional wisdom and his mother's vision for royal modernization. The Queen's perspective on Diana's letter was surprisingly open and thoughtful, recognizing the validity of many of Diana's insights while also helping William understand the practical challenges of implementing change within such a traditional institution. Their conversation provided William with a framework for balancing innovation with continuity, honoring his mother's vision while respecting the monarchy's constitutional role. The letter's impact extended beyond family relationships to influence William's public duties and charitable work. Diana's specific recommendations about mental health advocacy, homelessness, and environmental conservation provided him with a clearer sense of purpose and direction in his royal role. Her insights about effective charitable work, drawn from her own experiences with various organizations, helped William refine his approach to philanthropy and public service. One particularly significant aspect of Diana's letter was her vision for the future Commonwealth and the monarchy's role in global leadership. She had written extensively about the importance of maintaining strong relationships with Commonwealth nations while adapting to changing political and cultural realities. Her ideas about soft power and cultural diplomacy were ahead of their time and provided William with valuable guidance as he took on increasing responsibilities in international royal duties. The letter also contained practical advice about managing media relationships and public perception. Diana's hard-won experience with press attention had taught her valuable lessons about how to maintain authenticity while protecting privacy, and she shared these insights with William in specific and actionable ways. Her guidance proved invaluable as William navigated the modern media landscape, with its social media challenges and 24-hour news cycles that were even more intense than what Diana had faced during her lifetime. As William continued to process and implement his mother's guidance, he began to see the letter not just as a personal gift but as a responsibility to carry forward Diana's vision for the monarchy's future. Her words had provided him with both inspiration and practical tools for leadership, but they had also created expectations and obligations that would influence his decisions for years to come. The discovery of the letter had transformed William's understanding of his role and his relationship with his family, setting the stage for changes that would affect not just his own life but the future direction of the royal family itself. The months following the discovery of Diana's letter marked a period of profound transformation for William and the entire royal family. The impact of his mother's words had rippled outward in ways he never could have anticipated, touching every aspect of his life from his most private family relationships to his most public royal duties. As he worked to honor Diana's vision while navigating the practical realities of modern monarchy, William found himself becoming the leader his mother had envisioned, but through a journey far more complex than either of them could have imagined. The most visible changes began to appear in William's approach to his royal engagements and charitable work. Drawing directly from Diana's letter, he started incorporating her suggestions about more meaningful public interaction and authentic emotional engagement. Where previous royal visits had followed strict protocols and maintained careful distance between royalty and public, William began breaking down barriers in ways that honored his mother's legacy while serving his own vision of accessible monarchy. His visits to homeless shelters took on new dimensions as he implemented Diana's specific recommendations about how to connect with people experiencing homelessness. Rather than brief ceremonial appearances, William began spending substantial time listening to individual stories and learning about the complex factors that contributed to homelessness. Diana's letter had included detailed insights about the dignity and respect that people in vulnerable situations deserved, and her guidance helped William approach these interactions with genuine empathy rather than well-meaning but distant charity. The transformation was particularly evident in William's work with mental health organizations. Diana's letter had contained deeply personal revelations about her own struggles with depression and anxiety, providing William with unprecedented insight into the internal battles his mother had fought while maintaining her public duties. Her words about the shame and isolation associated with mental health challenges gave William a framework for addressing these issues that was both clinically informed and deeply personal. Using his mother's guidance, William began speaking publicly about mental health in ways that broke new ground for royal communication. He shared appropriate personal experiences and emotions, following Diana's advice about the power of vulnerability in leadership. His speeches and public appearances took on a more authentic tone that resonated with audiences in ways that traditional royal rhetoric had never achieved. The letter's influence on William's parenting became another crucial area of transformation. Diana had written extensively about the challenges of raising children within the royal family, sharing strategies she had developed for protecting her sons while preparing them for their eventual responsibilities. Her insights about balancing normal childhood experiences with royal obligations provided William and Catherine with a roadmap for their own parenting approach. William found himself implementing specific suggestions Diana had made about maintaining regular routines, encouraging independence, and fostering empathy in royal children. He began taking George, Charlotte, and Louis on visits to charitable organizations and community projects, following Diana's model of exposing royal children to different aspects of society from an early age. These experiences were designed not just to educate the children about their future roles, but to develop their natural compassion and understanding of the world beyond palace walls. The letter also influenced William's relationship with the media and his approach to public communication. Diana had learned painful lessons about press relations during her lifetime, and she had shared specific strategies for maintaining authenticity while protecting family privacy. Her guidance helped William navigate the complex challenge of being accessible to the public while maintaining appropriate boundaries around his personal life and his children's upbringing. Following Diana's recommendations, William began experimenting with more direct forms of communication, using social media and documentary projects to share his work and insights without the filter of traditional press coverage. This approach allowed him to control his own narrative while still maintaining transparency about his royal duties and personal convictions. The strategy proved effective in building public trust and engagement while protecting the aspects of his life that needed to remain private. One of the most significant long-term impacts of Diana's letter was its influence on William's vision for the future monarchy. Her insights about the need for institutional modernization had provided him with a framework for understanding how tradition and innovation could work together rather than in opposition. As William's role and influence within the royal family continued to grow, he began implementing changes that honored both his mother's vision and the monarchy's constitutional responsibilities. These changes included reforms to royal household management, making palace operations more environmentally sustainable and socially responsible. Diana's letter had contained specific recommendations about using royal resources more effectively and transparently, and William began implementing these suggestions through policy changes and public commitments. The transformation extended to everything from energy usage in royal residences to ethical sourcing for royal events and ceremonies. The letter's influence also affected William's approach to international relations and Commonwealth leadership. Diana had written extensively about the importance of personal connections in diplomacy and the power of cultural exchange in building lasting relationships between nations. Her insights about soft power and humanitarian leadership provided William with strategies for representing Britain internationally that went beyond traditional ceremonial functions. William began incorporating Diana's recommendations into his overseas visits and diplomatic engagements, focusing more on direct interaction with ordinary citizens and less on formal protocol. This approach helped him build genuine relationships with leaders and citizens in Commonwealth nations, creating foundations for ongoing cooperation and mutual understanding that extended beyond his individual visits. The discovery of the letter also had profound effects on William's relationships with his extended family and the broader royal household. Diana's words about forgiveness and healing had provided him with tools for addressing long-standing tensions and misunderstandings that had affected family dynamics for years. Her insights about the importance of honest communication and mutual respect helped William navigate difficult conversations with family members while maintaining the unity necessary for effective royal function. As the first anniversary of the letter's discovery approached, William reflected on the transformation it had sparked in his life and work. The message from his mother had provided him with more than just guidance and inspiration. It had given him a sense of purpose and direction that connected his personal grief and love for Diana with his public responsibilities and future aspirations. The letter had also created unexpected opportunities for healing and growth within his family. His conversations with Harry had led to a gradual rebuilding of their relationship, based on shared understanding of their mother's hopes and expectations for their bond. While their paths remained different, they had found new ways to support each other that honored both their individual choices and their mother's vision for their brotherhood. The relationship with his father had similarly deepened through their shared processing of Diana's message. Charles had found unexpected comfort in learning about Diana's final thoughts and feelings, and the experience had provided both men with tools for more honest and supportive communication. The letter had helped them understand their shared grief while also building stronger foundations for their working relationship as the monarchy prepared for future transitions. Looking toward the future, William recognized that his mother's letter represented both a gift and a responsibility that would influence the rest of his life. Diana's vision for his leadership had provided him with inspiration and practical guidance, but it had also created expectations that he was determined to fulfill. The discovery had transformed his understanding of his role within the royal family and his responsibilities to the British people and the Commonwealth. The letter's ultimate legacy lay not just in the personal healing and growth it had sparked, but in the institutional changes it had inspired. Diana's vision for a more accessible, compassionate, and effective monarchy was becoming reality through William's leadership and the support of family members who shared her commitment to meaningful royal service. Her final message to her son had become a blueprint for transformation that would influence the monarchy for generations to come, ensuring that her legacy of compassion and authentic public service would continue through the leaders she had helped shape and inspire. As William carefully returned the letter to its special place among his most treasured possessions, he carried forward not just his mother's words but her spirit of hope, determination, and love. The vanished message had been found, and its discovery had changed everything, creating a future that honored both royal tradition and Diana's revolutionary vision for what the monarchy could become in service to humanity.